Before the islands were called by names, before kingdoms rose and fell, the Philippines was a single realm, a vast chain of emerald lands, watched over by the gods of wind, fire, and sea. It was said that under the deepest waters of the Pacific slept a forgotten kingdom, Maharlaya, the city of dawn. The old fisherman whispered of it whenever lightning flashed over the horizon, that glowing shapes moved beneath the waves, and the ocean hummed with a sorrowful melody. One night, in a small fishing village in Bohol, a young woman named Amara sat by the shore. She was known for her strange gift. She could hear songs in the ocean that no one else could. Her mother said she was born during an eclipse, when the sun and moon embraced above the sea. As she watched the horizon, the waves began to glow faintly, turquoise, like fireflies trapped underwater. Then she heard it again, that haunting hum. Halina, anak ng araw, bumalik ka sa tahanan. Come home, child of the sun. Amara's heart pounded. The voice was soft, ancient, and full of longing. The next morning, she told the village elders what she'd heard. They exchanged worried glances. Many years ago, one elder began, the ocean swallowed a kingdom called Maharlaya. Its people angered the gods with their pride. Since then, the sea has guarded their memory. Another elder leaned closer. Child, if the sea calls you by name, you must not answer. It means your soul is bound to their lost world. But that night, Amara could not resist. The song grew stronger, pulling her toward the moonlit shore. As she stepped into the water, the tide glowed brighter. Something beneath the waves shimmered, a stone door, carved with ancient markings, half buried in coral. Amara touched it, and the sea swallowed her whole. When Amara opened her eyes, she was floating in light. Not sunlight, something purer, blue and silver, shimmering like living glass. Before her stood a vast city. Towers made of pearl, bridges of coral, and golden domes that shimmered beneath the ocean. Schools of glowing fish danced around her like stars. She gasped, This is real." From the shadows emerged a tall man dressed in armor made of shells and gold. His eyes glowed faintly like moonlight. "Welcome, Amara," he said in a voice that rippled through the water. "You have returned at last." "Returned?" she asked, confused. "I've never been here before." He smiled sadly. "You were born here, before the fall. You are the last daughter of Maharlaya." Amara's memories blurred. She saw flashes, flames on the ocean, temples collapsing, a woman's voice crying her name as waves consumed the world. The man placed his hand on her shoulder. "The ocean took our city, but not our souls. We waited for the one who would awaken the heart of the islands, the light that once bound all the lands together." He led her to a great temple in the center of the city. There a massive crystal heart pulsed faintly as if sleeping. It was cracked, dim, and surrounded by ancient runes. "The heart," he whispered, "is dying. When it stops, the seas will rise again, and your world above will drown, just as ours did." Amara's voice trembled. "What must I do?" "You must awaken it," he said, "with your song." She didn't understand until the moment she touched the crystal. A rush of warmth filled her, and the same melody that had haunted her dreams poured from her lips. The entire city began to tremble. Light burst from the cracks, spreading through the temple like lightning veins. But something else stirred, shadows rising from the ocean floor. They were the Sillimans, the cursed guardians of Maharlaya, spirits of those who defied the gods and were bound in darkness. Their eyes glowed red. Their whispers filled the water. "You will not wake the dawn. The sea is ours." The man drew his blade. "Amara, sing." "I'll hold them back," she sang, her voice trembling, echoing through the waves. The heart's light grew brighter, burning away the shadows. But one of the Sillimans struck her. Cold pain shot through her chest. The last thing she saw before collapsing was the heart of the islands blazing like a... When Amara awoke, she was lying on the beach again, the morning sun rising over the horizon. The sea was calm. The glow beneath the water was gone. For a moment she thought it had all been a dream, until she saw the crystal shard in her hand, warm, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. She stood, and the village around her slowly came to life. The air smelled fresher, the waves gentler, and the fish, once gone, returned to the shore. "Amara!" her mother cried, rushing toward her. "You were gone for 3 days." "I went home," Amara whispered. "Home beneath the sea." The elders gathered, astonished. "You saw Maharlaya?" Amara nodded. "And it's not gone, just sleeping." "But it's alive, and it remembers us." That night the villagers built a fire by the beach. Amara stood before them and sang the song the ocean had taught her. The waves echoed her voice, glowing faintly in rhythm. As she sang, she saw visions in the flames, mountains rising, islands forming, rivers flowing, the Philippines being born anew from the ashes of Maharlaya. The people wept, not in sorrow but in awe, for the song reminded them that their ancestors were never lost, only hidden beneath the tides, waiting for the day their voices would rise again. When the last note faded, a gentle breeze brushed her face. She looked to the horizon and smiled. The sea was no longer silent. It was singing again, and so ends the tale of the lost civilization of the Philippines. Some say that beneath our island still sleeps the heart of Maharlaya, the city of the dawn, breathing quietly beneath the waves. And when the wind hums through the coconut trees at night, perhaps if you listen closely, you'll hear Amara's song, calling us to remember where we came from, the echoes of Maharlaya. The waves were calm that morning, yet the sea whispered something strange. Lyra, now older, stood on the same shore where she once found the stone tablet years ago. The carvings, spirals, and old Bebean symbols had not faded despite the salt and wind. It was as if they wanted to be remembered. The villagers thought she was mad for spending her life studying stones and ruins. But for Lyra, every pattern had meaning. Her grandfather once told her, "Before the Spaniards, before even the tribes, there was Maharlaya, a kingdom of peace that vanished when the sea rose." She never believed him until she started hearing the drums beneath the waves. One evening, during low tide, she noticed shapes under the shallow waters, lines too perfect to be natural. She waded in and found the tips of old coral pillars. When lightning flashed in the distance, she saw it, ruins stretching far into the deep. A city buried by the ocean. She fell to her knees, whispering, "Maharlaya, you are real, the sea of stone." Weeks passed. Lyra returned daily with her small banca, carrying charcoal paper, a brush, and a notebook bound with dried palm. She traced carvings on the stone, walls below the waters, surface, human figures, boats with wings, and sun symbols resembling early Visayan art. The older fishermen warned her not to disturb the site. They said the Kaluluwa ng Dagat, the spirits of the drowned kingdom, guarded it fiercely. But Lyra was not afraid. One afternoon, as she dove deeper than ever before, she found a large stone arch. It was engraved with Bebean letters spelling, "Ang liwanag ng araw ay bumaba sa dagat." The light of the sun descended into the sea. A sudden current pushed her back. The sea grew colder. When she surfaced, clouds had gathered, and a storm was coming. But she had seen something inside that arch, a faint glow deep within the ruins. Not fire, not reflection, a light moving on its own. The next morning, she went to the village elder, Apo Mayang, who was known as the keeper of forgotten tales. Apo listened quietly, then nodded. "The sea remembers, Anak. That light you saw, it is the fire of the old kings. When the great flood came, they hid their hearts beneath the water, so that the world may one day remember them." Lyra's hands trembled. "You mean—" "Their hearts still live." Apo Mayang smiled sadly. "Not hearts of flesh, but hearts of memory." That night, Lyra dreamt of ancient drums and chanting voices calling her name. She woke up at dawn, and in the sand outside her hut, she found a shell glowing faintly blue. It pulsed like a heartbeat, the awakening of the deep. The following weeks became a blur of storms and sleepless nights. The sea had grown restless, waves crashing harder, winds howling through the palm trees. Lyra felt the call again. She sailed before sunrise, guided by instinct more than courage. When she reached the ruins, the sea was unusually calm. The glow from the arch returned, brighter, steadier. She dove. This time she passed through the arch. Inside was an open space, an air pocket under the coral ceiling. There were carvings on every surface, faces of kings and queens, maps of stars and depictions of boats flying across the waves. At the center stood a stone table, and on it, the same kind of glowing shell she found before, but larger, brighter. She reached for it. Suddenly visions flooded her mind. Cities of gold and wood, rivers of pearls, towers that touched the clouds, people speaking in a tongue older than Tagalog, a land united under the sun symbol, Maharlaya. Then the vision changed, the seas roared, mountains crumbled and fire fell from the sky. The people screamed prayers to the gods as the ocean swallowed their world. She gasped and fell back, the vision fading. Her breathing echoed in the hollow chamber. The voice returned, soft, almost a whisper. "Remember us. Tell our story." Lyra swam up, clutching the shell. When she surfaced, the sun had already risen, painting the ocean gold. The storm had passed, and in the distance, where the ruins had always been hidden under the waves, she saw something new. The tide had pulled back further than ever before, revealing parts of the city above the surface, arches, statues, roads of coral stone. For the first time in centuries, Maharlaya had risen to breathe again. Many years later, people would come from distant islands to see the site Lyra discovered. Scholars would call it the lost civilization of the Philippines. They would measure the stones, translate the carvings, and argue about its origins. But Lyra knew the truth. She would visit the shore at sunset, watching the waves reflect the golden sky. Sometimes she swore she could still hear drums beneath the sea, steady, proud, eternal. And in her small hut by the coast, she kept the glowing shell in a bowl of clear water. Its light never faded, and each night before she closed her eyes, she whispered, "I remembered you, Maharlaya. Your story lives again,